This time next year, hypothetically,
Okay.
how would you feel if Dak Prescott was a Panther?
Bruh.
Now, before you think this is just, hey, let's get some clicks by mentioning the Cowboys quarterback in a market that's not Dallas because the Cowboys are this, that, and the other, and they're famous, and Dak is in a bunch of commercials. It's not that. It's really less about Dak and more about Bryce Young and David Tepper. Because here, let me ask you this. Number one option, okay? Everyone's hopes and dreams, number one vision board, what everybody's hoping for is Bryce Young plays much better this year than he did last year, right? That's no argument. Right? That's what I hope happens. But you're foolish to just only plan for like your number one option happening, right? You need to have contingencies, plan Bs, plan Cs, plan Ds, plan double Qs, like all the way down, right? You need to be covering your tracks. What if Bryce Young takes a step back? We've seen very, very high draft picks be moved on from after 2 years. Zach Wilson, Kenny Pickett. Like recently, the possibilities of it has become much more accepting. So what if it happens? What's the Panthers' next move? Well, I can tell you right now, what we know about David Tepper, he doesn't seem like a patient owner. He doesn't seem like someone that's like, well, let's take another run at it. You tried to develop a youngster. It didn't work. Let's go back to the drawing board. Let's do it one more time. He might be better suited as the head honcho, the main owner of an NFL team for the big free agent quarterback. And by the way, right, Dak Prescott could be that next year. Right? If you listen to what Dak's telling the media, if you listen to what Jerry Jones is telling the media, there is a distinct possibility that Dak hits the open market next year. He's talking about how a lot of his favorite quarterbacks finish their careers in a different uniform. Jerry Jones is talking about how much money CeeDee Lamb wants and how much money Micah Parsons wants and how much money Dak Prescott wants. And there's only so much money to give. So if he is the big franchise quarterback that is available next offseason, and the Panthers have a situation where Bryce Young isn't developing, couldn't you see David Tepper telling Dan Morgan and Dave Canales and whoever else is in that decision-making room, I'm tired of the maybes? Right? You brought in reclamation projects, meaning the previous regime. I tried with the Baker Mayfields. I tried with the Sam Darnolds. I tried with the Teddy Bridgewaters. I tried with the veterans that flamed out somewhere else. And then we traded up for the best prospect in the draft. We tried with the stud prospect. I'm done bringing in unknowns and trusting people that it's going to be better. Get me the sure thing. And if it costs $50-something million per year, it costs $50-something million per year. Honestly, like I said, that might be David Tepper's best pair, right? David Tepper might need a quarterback that's fully formed, who doesn't need patience. Who, matter of fact, right, once you bring in the veteran, think Kirk Cousins going to Atlanta prior to the Michael Penix move. Think Kirk Cousins going to Minnesota. Think David Carr going to the Saints, right? Russell Wilson going to Denver. Not saying all these worked out, but I'm saying once those moves happen, then the owner isn't the only impatient one, right? The quarterback becomes impatient. Tom Brady going to Tampa. Peyton Manning going to Denver. Then suddenly the players are saying, trade away the future picks, get me the contributors now, win right now, because they're on the back half of their contract or their career, and they don't want to wait. David Tepper just might not be one of those owners that's ever going to vibe with somebody who's like, hey, if we really invest in them for the next 3 or 4 years, we might have something. Right? He might always end up being the guy who's like, no, we don't have 3 or 4 years. Right? Remember what his comments were when they drafted Bryce Young. David Tepper, when they drafted Bryce Young, was saying, we might not need stud wide receivers because Bryce Young is going to be the one to lift their level of play. That's wildly impatient for a rookie quarterback who you should be saying, we're going to ask him to do as little as possible. There's only so many, like Justin Herbert, CJ Stroud. Those guys are outlandish with how much weight was put on their shoulders as rookies, right? Most of the time, and some wildly successful rookie quarterbacks, right? Like, or young quarterbacks. And I'm going to use the most outlandish examples, but like the Tom Brady's, the Ben Roethlisbergers, some of these guys that went to Super Bowls very early in their career. Jared Goff, when he went to a Super Bowl very early in his career, it was not like, hey, sling us to victory. It was, hey, we're going to run the ball and play defense. Try not to mess it up. That's what you do with the young quarterback. When you want somebody to come in and raise the level of everybody else, you got to go spend $55 million a year in the free agency market. Now, obviously, I hope it doesn't happen. Not just because, Dak doesn't seem like the most fun guy to cover. Seems like there's always a little bit of drama surrounding whatever Dak has going on, meaning, contracts and other players, whatever. But also just because I'm rooting for Bryce, right? I want that to work. I want him to fulfill the potential that he showed as the best quarterback in a draft going into it. I want that to happen. But I've also watched football long enough to know there's no such thing as a sure thing, and you should always have backup plans or contingency plans, or at least an idea of what direction you would go if something doesn't happen the way you thought it would. And if that happens, Dak to Carolina? Do you think Dak would be the type to take highest bidder regardless of ability to win?
Probably not.
I think he might be a guy that just wants, I want to break the record for contract cash, and we'll figure out the rest later.
He could.
Because he could take a more reasonable deal from Dallas and then just be with CeeDee Lamb for the rest of his career, and that sounds pretty good for a quarterback.
But you don't want to play with Jonathan Mingo and Xavier Legette?
Well, how much money are we talking? Which, by the way, then Deontay Johnson's going because you won't be able to afford him because you'd be paying Dak all the money in the world. But I'm just saying there's possibilities. And if you look at the other quarterbacks that are going to be free agents next year, the reason why I use Dak is because, like, as of right now, it might be Jordan Love, but he's holding out. He'll get a contract before the year. There's a lot of guys who I think will be extended. Then there's like the Sam Darnolds and everything, and we've been through that.